I'm getting a weird error message about recording, but I think that it is recording.
Okay.
I got a message that it says recording has started.
Cool.
Hi, Carol. How are you?
Carol, if you're talking, we can't hear you.
Yeah, we still can't hear you, Carol.
Good afternoon.
There you are.
There
Yeah,
she
I had to
is.
run let my dog back in. He went outside and I couldn't get him to come in a timely fashion. So how many people do we have here?
We have
Two.
2 commissioners so far, including you.
Okay. Now we'll wait a few minutes. So what is our current count on commissioners? We're down 2 more, right?
You're temporarily down 1 and you lost 1. So I think we're at 7 now, if you counted Michael. And Michael is on leave until the elections.
So we're
Is that because
7 with
Evergee's is-
Michael? Is that right?
7 with Michael, 6 without.
So
No,
we need 4
am I off
people
one?
for a quorum.
I just sent the list to Rachel. Hold on a second. Rachel, you're muted, so if you're saying anything, I can't hear you.
I think it's 8 with Michael and 7 without Michael. And now we have quorum.
Yay.
Okay. Let's go ahead and get started then. Are there any additions or corrections to the November minutes? Hearing none, can I get a motion to approve them as drafted? Marty, would you make a motion to approve the minutes from our November meeting?
Okay.
Okay.
I'm glad to make that motion.
Okay, Jensen. Marty, would you second?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Any opposition? We're all in favor. There are only, what, 4 of us here? So we can probably say aye.
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 Okay, good. Welcome, Nate. Now, are there 5 of us now here? Okay, great. Then we just approved the minutes from the November meeting, Nathan. The next order of business is to hear about the tree preservation and protection ordinance. Who's doing that?
So Genevieve's going to be presenting, is that correct?
Yes, thank you. I'm in my presentation mode. I just finished up with the Neighborhood Planning Development Committee, so
yeah. And let me just,
Genevieve,
let me just put a little background to this real quick, and I'll turn it over to you. So I know the commission has been aware of the city. We've been working on an ordinance going back at least 2 years, if not longer. That was a part of the green, the KC Green policy team that really started working on that a couple years ago. And so went through a lot of work. I know Patty Nolan was involved and others on the team. Unfortunately, then after I think Jerry retired, it kind of lost a little steam and we got caught up in our climate planning process. So we were pretty happy when we heard the mayor was very much interested in this particular policy. So I know that we've now picked up a few additional folks working on this, and Genevieve, I think, is going to take us through this and share some of the latest developments on this policy. So with her, that's the backstory. So go ahead, Genevieve.
Thank you. And Patty's online also, so I'll try and keep the present. I have just a couple of slides just to go through the main sections of the ordinance, and then hopefully have time for plenty of questions, clarification, that kind of thing. But just to start out, introduce myself, I'm Genevieve Kahn. I'm a planner in the Development Management Division of City Planning and Development. Just have an overview of this ordinance for tree preservation and protection. Like was mentioned, it's been in the works for a couple of years. I just got added on to the team sort of over the last few months, working with Patty and folks from Bridging the Gap. And then more recently, we started collaborating with some of the prominent developers in Kansas City to get some feedback and input, and have made adjustments since then. So there are many details in the ordinance. I'll just try and keep it high level, but these new standards will have an impact on new development, and this ordinance will codify standards to help prioritize the preservation of tree canopy cover in tandem with those other adopted policies like the Climate Protection Resiliency Plan and the Urban Forest Master Plan. And these standards will come into play for certain projects that come through my division, mostly like larger developments, things that need site disturbance, so where people are going to be clearing sites. And this means that the developers will be required to preserve contiguous areas of tree canopy cover spanning 1 acre and larger, or they must mitigate what they remove. So for a little bit of background, some of our existing sections of the code that have similar environmental goals and objectives include our open space development and conservation development sections, stream buffer section 88-415, which restricts the disturbance of areas around regulated streams. And then lastly, our landscaping and screening requirements in 88-425. This is more specific landscaping based on impervious surface, street frontage, building square footage, screening, things like parking lots, drive-throughs, and the like. So each section serves a very specific individual purpose, and then the tree preservation ordinance will add on to this by focusing on our existing tree canopy that we want to preserve. So the main sections of the ordinance that I want to highlight are listed on this slide. We have the scope and purpose, which is just speaking to the importance of this ordinance. The intended outcomes are to improve stormwater management, mitigate urban heat island effect, reduce erosion and sedimentation, and encourage walkable environments. The next big section in this ordinance is the protected tree canopy cover section. This is introducing some more technical aspects to keep it simple for all applicable plans. Like I mentioned, any contiguous areas of tree canopy cover that are 1 acre or larger are required to be preserved, or if they are removed, they must be mitigated. So then this brings us to our mitigation section, where we'll have a couple of required plan sheets. So we'll want to see what the existing conditions look like, what the canopy cover is like on the site before development, and then showing what will be removed, what will be preserved, and then calculating the mitigation that is required. This is sort of similar to the parkland dedication process. If any of you are familiar with that, where there's sort of some options of preserving or paying money in lieu, which I'll get into a little bit more detail about. And then I just want to tie back to those other code sections that I mentioned. Stream buffer specifically already has requirements for preserving mature riparian vegetation in the stream buffer area. So this ordinance allows the developers to use that as an offset, so that we're not like penalizing them that they're developing a site with a stream. So they're able to offset and say, I'm preserving 20 acres of stream buffer. I would like to have that contribute to removing without penalty elsewhere on the site. And then additionally, this ordinance allows some of the landscaping to count towards mitigation and planting. And the mitigation, whether it's planting or money in lieu, is calculated using some variables that are listed in the ordinance. And like parkland dedication, developers can opt to do a combination of planting or money in lieu, one or the other. So we're trying to keep it as flexible as possible to accommodate. Every site is unique, every development is unique. And so we heard what the developers had to say, and we're trying to keep the integrity of the ordinance, but also realize that development will happen and costs are involved, obviously. I know I went through that really fast, but that is sort of the meat of the ordinance. And then looking ahead, we are docketed for the February 7th City Plan Commission meeting. There will be time for public testimony and comments and questions from the commissioners. If all goes well and they recommend approval for this, I expect that it will be on the neighborhood planning and development agenda the following day, if not the following day, following week. So around that early February time. And then hopefully we will get this adopted. If Patty has anything else to add, feel free to jump in. I know there's a lot of information, so I'm happy to answer any questions or go back and explain things.
We would welcome if any of you are able to join the Zoom call or even appear in person on February 7th at City Plan Commission. That would be helpful. I realize it's difficult to not know the exact time and have to hang on to a Zoom, but we are really hoping to garner some support because we know that the development community will be there, not only the group that we have met with for the past month and a half, and we believe we have somewhat of a compromise with them, but we suspect there'll be others coming out of the woodwork and further kind of try to erode what we've worked so hard on. So if you are able to support us or send a letter or anything, and also outreach to the community, we need to start some of that also to just to let people know that this is there and support is needed. So we think anything that you can do along that effort.
Patty, this is Carol.
Yes.
I wanted to ask you a question, and then this is a specific question. I've noticed along Berry Road that they have cleared an enormous site. Has that site already gone through the development review process, or are they clearing it pre-review?
That was approved, I believe, Genevieve. It's proposed to be a senior living residential development. So is that right?
Which project? There's a lot of projects on Berry Road.
It's east of Green Hills, south side of Berry Road. It was cleared. They cleared the trees for the bat removal. You know, there are certain parameters that they have and then just in the past week, they have finished the trees up along Berry Road. So it's up to the sidewalk. The old, I'm sure Genevieve doesn't know the old Drennan Lake fishing ponds.
Yeah.
Reference, but I don't know. We'll check on that, Carolyn. I can let you know what the status is on that approval process. But the best thing that this ordinance does in our minds is that previously we had no restriction on somebody coming in and clearing their property before they ever submit a development plan. And so they essentially could go in and obtain a site disturbance permit, clear every tree out of there, and then they submit their development plan. And at that point, we can look at the aerial and say, well, what about this tree cover? Can you keep this? And well, it's gone. So unfortunately, so this ordinance captures everything pre-development. The only possibility would be for a landowner, a farmer, or someone to clear before they sell to a developer or something to that effect. But we do, as you know, north of the river, we made great strides with the stream buffer ordinance. So we've been able to save trees along the stream buffers to the extent that certain people comply with that ordinance.
Okay, I understand what you're saying. I would like the commission to consider providing a formal letter of support for this effort. And also, if we do that, I would appreciate some help from you all in helping us identify the language and the points that we should specifically make in a letter of support.
Are you speaking to us, Carol? That we would?
Yes, I'm speaking to the commissioners, but also to you.
Okay.
If you all could help us identify the points that need emphasis.
Yes.
So I turn it. Oh, Kelly.
Yeah, I just wanted to add to the discussion the impact of water quality that clear grading has, and that's because it increases sheet flow on a site. And it does take a certain fair amount of time to reestablish grass on a clear graded site. And in my prior position in Springfield, Missouri, we had a lot of issues with that because it then kind of became a really complicated issue of getting the contractor to stabilize the site while it's also being in the middle of plan review. And it was really just a mess because they're like, but then we're about to have, complete plan review. And it's always like it was like our experience and my experience was, it was always about to start construction. And so that really complicated things with stabilizing and preventing erosion and sediment control on construction sites too. I just wanted to add that.
Yes.
I'd be open to discussion among the commissioners regarding providing a letter of support for this ordinance.
This is Jensen. I'd be glad to support the ordinance. I do wonder if I might just ask a quick question. I apologize because you probably saw that I dropped out toward the end of the presentation and then had some difficulty connecting. I came back on during the discussion of the stream setback ordinance and some pre-development components of that. And that's actually the nature of my question. I wonder, I heard early that there is a payment in lieu of maintaining the canopy. And I apologize, I cut out maybe when that was being discussed, but I wonder if there is any way to maintain, if that payment is made, if there's any way to maintain a sense for the future owner of what really ought to have been present or what was lost from the pre-development condition. And I say that to say that, it's often the case that builders will install something that's builder grade. So my background is more in building. So if you think about it, the builders will make a decision that is that affects the long-term viability of the project. Like they'll install builder grade equipment, and then the future occupant understands that penalty when they come in, and they oftentimes will go back and they'll replace that, whether they're replacing the furnace or they're replacing some of the other fixtures. And by doing that, they essentially bring the house back into a higher performing status. So if you can make the mental leap, what I would love is if there was some kind of, if a builder made a choice to pay something in lieu of maintaining the canopy, and then the future homeowner also had to pay something, kind of in the same way that it's a penalty to move into a house that has a poor performing but builder grade furnace. You continue to pay that until you recognize the incentive. This is about, economics, to make a change there. So the same thing would be when you restore the canopy, say, for example. It's something that the building community might not they might support because it doesn't affect the upfront cost of the building, but it would be something that would maintain an economic incentive or an environmental incentive for the future owner. This is in thinking about incentives that drive behavior. That's my question. Is there any precedent for something like that other than what I kind of described as a loose analogy?
Well, we have our landscaping and screening part of the ordinance. So not necessarily on a homeowner lot basis, but as a whole, a development is required to landscape private open space tracts or tracts that they retain. And mitigation can come in two forms. Not only can they, if they absolutely cannot save the trees on the site, will not, they pay money in lieu of, but the other option is that they plant on that site in lieu of. So they can go into areas that are already designated as stream buffers or private open space tracts that may be too steep upon which to build, or other areas. And also the code requires a 30-foot buffer for houses that back or side on to rights of way. So that's a private open space tract. So that is the other option, in addition to paying money in lieu of mitigation, but they can go in and plant. And that's really as important too, because they're planting those trees on their own site. And then another component of that is our street tree planting ordinance, which we're going to be working on also. So we'll ensure get better participation from developers and planting those street trees that are already required, and then maintaining those street trees. So the overall goal is to increase the canopy citywide. With the money that's paid into mitigation, the city, the Parks Department will have the ability to plant trees on site or on public properties, or not on a private property, but on public properties such as parklands, schools, rights of way, where they determine that there is a need for those trees. So, ideally, a developer will recognize the need for trees. Part of our funds that we will receive for mitigation can be used for education, and education is extremely important. People need to realize the value of trees, and for every reason that's been mentioned here.
Thank you.
Andy?
Yeah, so Patty, you mentioned street trees. Just to clarify, are there not any ordinances in place already for street trees and developers to ensure that there is, a number of street trees be put in as part of a development?
Well, when developments are approved, residential developments, the developer is required to plant street trees, submit a street tree planting plan. We have a certain group of developers that do not plant their street trees, and the biggest problem is the enforcement, is that we don't have the enforcement to ensure that those trees are being planted. So we have some ideas that we're thinking about. So after we finish this ordinance, we'll start refining the street tree ordinances. There are no real solid ordinances in place other than that we do require them to plant those street trees. But as far as when somebody can, essentially homeowners don't understand that they can't remove trees from the public right of way. That happens all the time. We need to establish that that's not allowed, and then a fine system or penalties or whatever the case may be.
Okay, so that helps explain it then. What you're saying is there's a requirement to do it, but we don't have the teeth to enforce it with the developers.
We just don't have the personnel. We don't have the mechanism. We don't have people out driving around. There are ways to do it. You can have the building inspectors when they're out on the site to issue a C of O for the house, but sometimes the developers don't plant the trees at that time. They wait until they have a whole block built, and then they'll plant the trees for various reasons. So it's just there's no real mechanism right now ensure that those trees are planted.
Thank you.
Is there a commissioner that would move for us to go ahead and submit a formal letter in support of this ordinance?
I'll support it. Marty.
Okay, is there a second?
I'll second. It's Gloria.
Thank you, Gloria. Would you, any discussion?
I feel I don't really know much about this thing, but I trust the intent and the work that's gone into it, but you know.
So Patty or Genevieve, is there a draft that you can share with us that we can share with the commissioners?
Definitely.
Okay, if you can, one of you can get that to me, I can forward it to the commissioners.
That's great.
We won't have another meeting before this ordinance is before the Planning Commission and council probably. And so I would like to call a vote on submitting a letter in support of this ordinance. We have all 7 of our currently active commissioners in attendance. So would you show by, can you all raise your hand like that, like I just did?
I cannot. I'm driving, Carol, but I support it. Nate Madden.
Okay, Nate. Let's see. Let me see. I haven't. Gloria, are you supportive of sending a letter?
Yes, I'm supportive of. Sorry, I can't get to my actions quick enough to get.
Okay, that's all right.
The reactions. Yeah, but I support it. Yes, I do support it.
Well, we will draft a letter then in the next few days supporting the adoption of the ordinance. And I will work with Patty and Genevieve to make sure our letter addresses the points that need specific support in order to keep the points that they won, working with the development community to protect and preserve as much of the canopy as we can and to get as much of it replaced as we can. Is that agreeable to everyone? We'll send a copy of the letter out to all of you so that you can see the points that were emphasized. And then if any of you want to attend the meetings, you can do that as well. Do I have any objections to any of that? You guys are so quiet today.
That plan sounds great, Carol.
Thanks, Scott. Okay, let's move on to the agenda a little bit more. And the next thing on the agenda is commission appointments. And I'm going to ask Andy to update us a little bit on Michael's situation because there was a city ordinance, right? Ordinance resolution that has affected his participation in the commission for now.
Right. So Michael informed us that because he's running for councilman, I think District 4 or District 3, I can't keep them straight, but he will have to just temporarily take a leave off of this particular commission as well as the Climate Protection Steering Committee. District 5, thank you, Rachel. So anyways, he's going to be out of commission on this particular commission and the steering committee. We will see how that goes with the election. I think the primaries are in April and the general election will be in June. So we'll see. We have until at least June to see where this goes. So just to kind of, as far as an update with the mayor's office, one of the dilemmas we have with this particular commission, you've got 17 seats that the commission usually has, or that's what the ordinance requires. And over the past several years, we've been kind of losing commissioners in terms of not getting reappointments. And with where we are now is we're down to 8. And with Michael taking the leave, it brings you down to 7. So we've been kind of poking the mayor's office on a periodic basis to see where they are on appointments. I'll be honest with you, they're just not very engaging in this regard. So I'm not sure with the upcoming election whether the mayor is going to be looking to make appointments, if he's going to wait until after the election. We're trying to at least get a list of those that have been submitting applications. And as of yesterday, we can't, we've tried to get something from the mayor's office on applications, and we're not even getting confirmation on that. So, that's all we can do is keep prodding, poking, calling. It's just, they're not very engaging in this regard.
Well, I'm going to suggest something to the commission, and you guys can kind of think this over. But I feel like at this point, none of us currently appointed. We are all serving out expired terms. And I feel like when the time comes to present our annual report, that's what our annual report needs to focus on. It needs to focus on what the role of the commission is, what the intent of the commission is, and the fact that the city is not currently taking good advantage of the expertise in the community that could be made available to the council. So I don't know how the rest of you feel about it. It's a lot of work to kind of come up with a substantive policy related annual report with so few people. And I feel like with the recent adoption of the Climate Protection and Resiliency Plan, as well as some of the things that we've done in the recent past, that may not be as important as just shoring up the commission itself for the future. Does anybody have thoughts?
Yeah, I appreciate what you just said, Carol. I think that sounds like maybe a good way to prod them a little bit. I feel like part of our role is really, to help support the CPRP in whatever ways we can. And so I'm kind of with you. I feel a little bit limited as to what that looks like with the, I know I've suggested several people in my circles that I think are good candidates, that know things about electric vehicles and, some of these other areas that might be interesting to include. But if we can't get any traction, it's going to be limiting.
Yeah. Well, that really is kind of my thought about where we go next, because I feel like we have worked sort of the back channels as much as we can, and maybe we need to make it more of a formal thing, and that would be submitted. I'm trying to think, what is our schedule? May is when that would be submitted, which would be shortly after the elections.
Right before the general election, I believe.
Oh, it would be short. It would be after the primaries, but before the general.
Right.
Well, we maybe ought to think about that, because we probably want to submit it to the newly elected. Or maybe to both, or maybe to the mayor and then to the newly elected council. We need to think about what makes the most sense and is also diplomatically appropriate. We don't want to be interfering in the elections in any way. But I feel that I put this on the agenda. I asked Andy to put this on the agenda because I feel like it's an issue that we really need to elevate.
I think you're right, Carol, but I think it also has to come after the election and before the government
Yeah.
shuts down in June.
Right. I
'Cause
think
the-
you're right too. I mean, we don't want to get in the middle of the election
Yeah,
for sure,
yeah. But you
because
want it to be the new
that
council.
causes us all trouble.
Yep, yep, I think so.
That's if I can sort of hop in just with my 2 cents here. I have spoken with Carol about this, but I will be rolling off in October. And I think one of the big issues with our commission, appointment situation is that there's been, with previous commissioners who have rolled off, virtually absolutely no effort to conduct recruitment and promote the commission as something to people who may not be aware or who might be interested in being involved with it as an opportunity for them. And so I don't know what our sort of guidelines are as part of the commission, but most boards that I've served on have a sort of a pretty strong, if not formal, requirement to source your replacements or people who may be interested in it. And I have been working the ropes with a lot of people on this, and I intend to have at least 1 or 2 people to apply for being a commissioner before I roll off in October. But I do also want to say, for me, as we've sort of grown and developed here, and I've learned what is happening and like how the commissions worked, and then doing this through the pandemic, I have a couple things that I'm very open and honest with people that I'm talking about for recruitment. And I think, to the extent that this, you agree or disagree with it, is worth a conversation. But I tell people that we have no sort of formal authority. We are a recommending informational body, which is our scope as it's set now. But that, as the saying goes, power is never given, it's only taken. And I feel like we've not done, as a committee, enough to insert ourselves in aspects of the process. Here's an example. When we were getting feedback solicited from us for the incentives, from the woman who was working on our development incentives, we have no formal role in that process, despite the fact that building energy efficiency in development, and the conversation that we had about tree canopy cover earlier today, and all the myriad functions that occur, we have no role in that. And we should have a seat at the table, and we should lobby for having some sort of veto power over this, because in my mind, we are not being adequately centered. Our concerns as environmental stewards and advocates and conservationists are not being adequately centered. And if you're not at the table, then you're on the menu. So I think my personal opinion, and what I'm telling people who are applying for this, is that we need to advocate for more power, more authority, more ability to have a say in what we're able to do. I don't know what that process would look like. That's for the new commissioners to figure out. But I do think that part of the reason it's hard to get people on here is because it's hard to get engaged when it's like all we do is send letters and an annual report, which is all well and good, but our engagement remains very limited. And I think to the extent that we can get a deeper and more engaged commission, it will be because of the fact that we have some muscle behind what we say.
I appreciate that, Nate, and I think that that's a kind of discussion that we ought to be having among ourselves, and that we ought to be bringing forward to the new council. One of the things we have done in the past that we have been somewhat limited in the current environment is we had better liaison responsibilities. the representatives of the EMC sat on the wet weather community panel and the water rate panel, and the update for the zoning and building codes, and different processes in the city where we were at the table as a participant and then a liaison. And we have done more of that with Mid-America Regional Council. But once again, it is partly an issue of whether or not we can get the person who is doing the appointments, and in this case, it has been the mayor frequently, to put us in the position to have that kind of exchange with the other groups. And we have suggested that there should be liaison with the health department and also with the parks department. So I think that we need to re-emphasize the benefits of having these exchanges across the board. And I'm totally open to what you're saying and to trying to find a way to facilitate it. And there may be other commissioners that have similar thoughts about things we could do or should do to be more effective. You guys are so quiet today.
Like the idea.
Well, I'll just ask quickly if what's our latitude with having substructures on the commission, subcommittees, or that aren't appointed but they're supporting the work of the commission. And I say that because it could serve as an onboarding ramp. I know that I attended the commission meetings and effectively served on the commission for probably 6 months before I was originally appointed. And my application was in during that time, and everybody on the commission was aware that I was, pursuing a position on the commission, and that, it was something of a waiting game, but I was trying to help with the work all the while.
Well, I think that we can welcome that kind of situation. And we have in the past had working groups on different things. Like, for example, when Robin did all the work on vacant lots, there were a large number of people that he engaged in that work group that were not on the commission, and some of whom developed more interest in the commission as a result. So I think that there's plenty of room for that. I don't think we have to be what we have been at all. And I do think that we need to grow. I think that new leadership would be helpful. I think that we've just, the thing that I see throttling us so badly is the lack of engagement from the mayor's office, honestly. I mean, I'm being really candid with you. If we can't communicate with them about appointments successfully, we're in an awkward and less useful position, I would say. So.
I agree. Do we know where he's going to appear next?
Well, no, and I'm thinking that maybe I will contact him, find some way to contact him individually, not as a representative of a commission, but as a person serving on a commission that is suffering from lack of appointments. But I haven't really figured out exactly how to do that, and I need to talk to Andy about what I can do. But I promise if I do that, I will not represent myself as representing any of you. I will keep my complaints personal. Laura.
On that note, we do have some pretty environmental council folks that are on their way out. And since your job is, to advise the mayor and council, it might be worth advising the council as well to see if that gets you anywhere. especially your own specific council people maybe in your district. Just a thought.
Yeah. Yeah, I think we just need to put our heads together and come up with as many different avenues of approach as we can. And I'm totally open to that. And if we want to have a discussion of that at a future meeting, we can, or if we want to have a special meeting to discuss that, we can. Or however you all want to approach it, I'm game. I just think Andy's not, how do I want to say this, Andy? You're running into roadblocks. Is that fair enough?
Yeah, it's kind of hit or miss. I mean, some days they're responsive, and then lately, this last attempt at trying to find out where we were, it's not responsive. So, I mean, it's in there, you know, one minute you get Carol Mackin appointed out of the blue and have no idea how that happened or why. And then we can go for months with nothing, you know, so.
Yeah, I think we have people in the pipeline, and we developed a whole list of people. We asked them to apply. I know that some of them have applied, but we don't get feedback from the mayor's office that they've received the application. So we kind of don't know where that stands. I do know that one person that I was working with applied multiple times, and for over and over and over was told that the application didn't go through or whatever. So it has been pretty much fraught with difficulty.
Right. And that's why, I mean, we need to kind of round up if there's any applications that if they're routed to me, like I said, before, I'd be happy to take it to the mayor's office and try to babysit that if I can to make sure it gets in the hands of the right people. And we're trying to test the app to see if the applications are going through or not, just in-house, just to see if it works. So we're trying to do that right now as well. So we're not giving up on this. We're just trying to find any avenues where we can kind of spur some movement in this regard. But even to see who's even applied, I mean, the last update I received was only maybe there were 2 or 3 at best, and that was surprising.
Yeah, since we talked to so many people and we know some are actively applying.
Right.
Nate, I would appreciate your comments if you wanted to send them to me, and I will do my best to think about it, how we can articulate those things.
Yeah.
And Jensen, you know, same for you. Anybody that has suggestions, I would love to find a stronger way to approach this. Having said that, I want to, I guess, move on unless one of you wants to add something. And have the OEQ report. Andy?
You ready?
Laura?
Okay. Sure, and I'll just call the commissioner's attention to the chat. There's some suggestions from our visitors here in the chat. So I won't review those, but I'll start the OEQ report. So this is going to be kind of all over the place because we haven't met since November. So just there's a lot of different things going on simultaneously here. So just kind of try to touch on a variety of different things. And then at the end of the report, if there's anything that I left off, certainly feel free to ask. So let's start off first off with staffing. So first, I'd like to introduce a new recruit in OEQ, Reagan Tokus. So Reagan, if you want to unmute yourself. Reagan is our new sustainability analyst. The previous analyst, Chris Hayes, took a position in the Water Services Department. And so, you know, this particular position, primarily over the benchmarking program, has the potential to help us in so many other ways. And I know Laura's pretty excited about all the things that Reagan's going to be able to help us with. So Reagan, you want to just talk a little bit about yourself, introduce yourself.
Sure. Yeah. Hi. Like you said, I'm Reagan. I started December 5th. I've been working a lot on the benchmarking program. That's really my main thing. but I'll also be working on the climate plan to help develop metrics for that, help track things. Yeah, let's see, I have a degree in regional and community planning with a minor in geography. I graduated from K-State. Before this, I was working at Hoxie Collective, which is a small neighborhood planning firm here in Kansas City. Yeah. Oh, also, I'm on the board of Heartland Conservation Alliance. Those are the main things.
Okay, thank you, Reagan.
Yeah.
All right, any questions from the commissioners, or Laura, is there anything you want to add to her introduction? Give you the floor.
Just that Reagan sells herself short a lot. She actually helped us develop the carbon sequestration potential of the Blue River Corridor, and she's pretty much, you throw any sort of system at her that's computer related and she can figure it out. So I'm excited to have her both to help with all the metrics, but also to really help us move forward in the natural solutions space as well.
Yeah, I'm excited to be here. Thanks.
Okay, thank you, Reagan. Okay, so for now, this kind of completes all of our vacant positions here in the office. But there's some potential for some new positions. We'll talk about that in a minute. Next up, Solarize Kansas City, just kind of give everybody an update where we were with that. Enrollment period ended in October for Solarize Kansas City, and this is the program for solar panels for residential, commercial, and nonprofits. So enrollment ended in October with 657 folks signing up for bids for their properties. At the end of December was the next cutoff, and that was for folks to actually contract for solar. And based on our latest numbers, those that were contracting, we have just a little over 100 residential contracts in place. So those were families in the metropolitan area. It wasn't just limited to Kansas City. This was a metro-wide program. So we had just over 100 residential contracts with a total of about 722 kilowatts of solar renewable energy. So we were shooting for 1 megawatt. So 722, I still feel, is a pretty strong number for our first bulk purchase program here in Kansas City on solar. So pretty excited about it. Those installations were started about a month or two ago is when they actually started in earnest on the installations. And those are going to continue to get through those 100 families right up through June, probably, to get them done. The next phase of the project is the low income component. So many of you know we have Share the Sun was our low income component. The idea being is that the city was going to put some seed money in a fund, and then hopefully through charitable donations, we would grow that fund to use those to subsidize solar panels on low-income families, assuming, and these families would be vetted through our metropolitan or through the West Side housing programs and or Jerusalem Farm to kind of leverage the energy efficiency work that's been done in those areas. So so Kelly's throwing this in there. We've got 20,000 recently donated to the program for Share the Sun, and the city was throwing in $150,000. So we're looking at about $170,000 to work with. So our budget originally for $150,000 would cover around 15 families with 4 kilowatt systems. So that's an offset of about half their energy usage. So, you know, with the additional dollars, that'll get us another 1 or 2 families probably, just depending on costs. So pretty excited. We're going to be starting those here this spring. We're just working out still some final details on moving some dollars around. So hopefully we're going to start on installations on the low-income families soon too. Okay, so any questions about Solarize? Okay. Not seeing any. Related to Solarize, we'll switch over to solar, the RFP that the city has out on the street. We have a request for proposal that was issued a couple of months ago for solar at the airport. A project that would cover 3 or 4 different phases to cover at the end, if all phases were developed, about 70,000 homes could be covered by the energy produced by that solar array. Where we are right now with this is that we've delayed the RFP in terms of submittals. We've given the developers more time to put their projects together for consideration. So that has been pushed back to, I believe it's February 10th now. So we've been kind of putting together the selection committee. We're going to have some technical guidance from NREL. Will be providing some guidance to us on this as well. So looking forward to the proposals. I am on the selection committee, so I'm looking forward to reading through those when they come in and the presentations. So keep you posted on where we are with that. Let's talk about energy code. Energy code, of course, the city adopted the 2021 IECC back a few months ago. Yep, second city in the country to do that. So we're pretty excited about it. So the implementation of that is July of this year. So we've got a lot of work to do in-house to implement the energy code. Laura and myself have been working with the codes folks to just start going through the various issues, whether it's in-house training. We've talked about the staffing issues. Could be their permitting program. So we're just kind of trying to get everything kind of out on the table on what needs to happen between now and the implementation. Fair amount of work is on city planning and codes, but I think we felt, or at least I know I felt, somewhat obligated to assist city planning, being that we kind of drag them kicking and screaming into the energy code, the 21 energy code debate. And, they stepped up and we got it done. So anyhow, they've been working with us and we've been working through the issues. Simultaneously, our planning right now, the way we're looking at this is in-house staff first, talking about the issues with our other internal departments that might be affected by the energy code. But then working with our external stakeholders sometime in maybe March, April, or May, somewhere in that time period, to bring them to the table to talk about some of the solutions that we're discussing, to collect further ideas, to kind of vet our ideas against what they deal with on their side. So we'll be reaching out to folks that we know that were very much instrumental in getting this code across the finish line. So we haven't forgotten about those groups. We'll reach out to them here before too long to bring them to the table. Funding, of course, has been an issue around the energy code, and we've all talked about the opportunities under the IRA for this. Interestingly enough, we're actually working with Kelly with MEC and the state, just kind of providing some input into an application that they're submitting. It's part of the bipartisan infrastructure law. I think it's, let me see if I have the technical name for this one. What is this one called? The Resilient Energy Code Implementation, or RESI. Yeah, no, this one, yeah, State Energy Office through the Department of Energy. So anyways, they're working on their concept paper right now, and that will be proceeding, and then the application actually isn't due until Kelly, you can always throw it in the chat. I think it was end of March 27th, I think it was. And we'll continue to kind of provide some input, but in general, I think what that grant is about, the concept paper is talking about building capacity here locally in terms of job opportunities, job training for young folks, particularly folks in that may not have opportunities otherwise. So reaching out to those groups. We're also talking about continuing training opportunities for our code inspectors, our codes folks, as well as developers, as well as builders. So there's just a lot of training opportunities out there. So I think that'll help capture a lot of those external issues that might be beyond what the scope of the city might do, versus on our side, it's implementing it's plan review, it's staffing, it's, the technology aspect of the permitting process. So those are the things that they're working on internally. Not to ignore IRA, we'll certainly revisit IRA as those opportunities present themselves. There's not a lot of details yet, but they will be forthcoming. So we may be revisiting those for some dollars in terms of staffing concerns. However, that brings me to the next big topic, which is budget. But before I get into the budget, any questions about the code?
Is there pushback from developers?
Well, I mean, developers, there was definitely pushback on adopting the code. Since then, I think I don't have direct feedback from our city planning folks to hear if they're getting much pushback. I think right now it's a matter of, yeah, how are they going to comply? What is the pathway to do that? There's different pathways, and even city planning, I think, has some work to do to figure out how they're going to interpret certain aspects of the code. There's some wiggle room, in some ways, and, certain situations might require one interpretation versus another. And I think that's something they're trying to figure out in-house. So Jeff Lee, the building official, he's got a lot on his plate right now, and I know he's working on trying to figure out some of those details. So we shall see. But I'm hoping that they reach out to the builders and the developers in the near future. I mean, that's my hopes, is that we get to the point where we can have a conversation to make sure that we're addressing some of their concerns. So we'll see. Okay, any other questions? All right. Budget season starting. We've already submitted our budget to the city manager. Our office submitted a budget request that included what we already have, plus 2 positions. We felt that we needed more support for the climate protection resiliency plan. So we put in a request for 1 position to kind of cover natural systems, 1 to kind of address buildings and energy efficiency issues. We asked for a few dollars for some other program that we wanted. So all I would say is that our budget office is doing the work right now to kind of put that package together for the mayor and council. They will be doing that submittal sometime in the 1st or 2nd week in February. It's at that point, once it gets submitted to the mayor and council, it usually becomes a public document for you all to see. I'm not expecting any earth-shattering news in terms of our office, kind of like last year we had quite a few other issues to contend with. I'm not seeing any this time around. There's been no discussion in terms of moving us from one place to another, or any concerns about dollars or in terms of our standard budget. Fiscally, the city is actually not in a bad position. Things seem to be going pretty well, so there is a good chance that there will be some latitude in accepting some of these additional budget packages that we've asked for. So I guess what I would say is, as the city opens up the opportunities for the public hearing process, just as the stakeholders and the commission and others have really stood up for OEQ in the past, I would certainly encourage you to participate in the hearing process as you see those things that support the climate plan and sustainability in Kansas City. So however that looks for you and however you want to do that, that's what we would encourage. So the adoption, just as a reminder, hearings will occur sometime between mid-February and about mid-March. They generally do about 3 presentations to the community, usually separated between the north, central, and south. Can't say at this point, I've not seen any details in terms of virtual or in person, but those will be announced here before too long. Okay, that's all I have on the budget. Wanted to give a quick update on streetlights because Scott was dropping me some emails about streetlight LED conversion, and his concern about these funny looking purple lights popping up through the urban core and what was going on with those. So I figured we'd talked about streetlights almost a year ago. It's been a while. So basically just giving you a heads up. First off, the city has a website. Certainly encourage you to go to kcmo.org and just put in the search engine, just streetlight LED conversion, and it'll take you to the page for the city that is tracking the progress on the LED conversion. So as a reminder, we've got 90,000 streetlights that are being converted to LED, looking at a good 50% energy savings, cost savings for doing that, both not just energy savings, but maintenance cost as well. So progress is moving forward. They're getting work done. So if you review the map, if you get a chance to look at it, it's pretty interactive. It's kind of cool. You can kind of zoom in on your neighborhood, even see what's planned. Thank you, Laura, for plopping that in there. So it's in the chat if you want to look at it while we're talking. But essentially, they've completed about 7% of the LED conversion in each of the 6 districts. However, District 4 has about 18% completed. So I'm not sure not sure why that one's higher than the others. But thank you. So you can kind of see here on the map, you can zoom in and kind of see what's planned, what the schedule is, what's completed. So pretty cool. So you kind of see what's going on. All right.
So Andy,
Yeah.
so go ahead and
Yeah, I was just gonna say, yeah,
go ahead and
reminds me.
explain a little further about the why they're all purple. And
Yeah,
it's
just about that's the last thing on my list to get to, and I got all excited when Laura threw the map up there, it threw me off. So no, the purple, of course, that you'll see that primarily along 71 highway through the urban core. Few other offshoots of that. At night, it really does when you're driving towards downtown and you see that. I've seen it a few times. It's kind of spooky like. It's kind of like a neon blue. But anyways, what those are not ours. Those are not our LEDs. Those are MoDOT has responsibility for the 71 highway corridor. There was a manufacturer defect in those particular LEDs. That's well known. It's been happening all across the country. So this is nothing unique to Kansas City. This is just what happened with this particular batch of LEDs. So MoDOT is replacing those on some particular schedule. We don't have that, but yeah, they are certainly starting to be replaced. And we've been assured that the LEDs that the city's putting in are not part of that batch of bad bulbs. So anyhow, yeah, those are not ours, but interesting little I don't know, thing to see anyways. That cover it for you, Scott?
Yeah, that's the missing piece. It's good to know that, purple is not 3,000 Kelvin.
Yeah. Okay. All right, if there are any other questions on streetlights, want to kind of move to a different topic. It's composting. So I'm going to turn this over to Kelly. We've been having her work on a project on composting we think we should share with you. So Kelly, take it over.
Yeah, sure. So I've been working on rebooting our composting initiative, initially requested by our city manager's office. I'm not sure if you were aware that we did have an initial rollout. I would say maybe I wonder if it was 6 to 8 months, but that was prior to my employment here. And it didn't go as planned. And the good thing is that we are currently, thank you, Laura. So it is composting for the building of City Hall right now. And we are making kind of a template to roll it out to all city buildings at some point in time. The good thing that came from the initial composting rollout is we are currently composting all the paper towels in the restrooms. And I visually watch those bins just as trying to learn about all the details. And I will say they do fill up those bins. There's 3 roll-off bins that the paper towels fill up. So we can, that's like just one little step towards a massive composting rollout that will occur April 19th. And that is actually the week before Earth Day. So I believe that becomes Earth Week, is what I've learned. And the rollout will consist of small little countertop bins. I forgot that I had these here. Small little countertop bins in every kitchenette on every floor. And there will be the participation of green ambassadors that will help us throughout the building. It's a volunteer program through our education and outreach green team. So we're looking for City Hall volunteers to join that group because they're going to be helping us to roll out the program, to get the bins in the kitchenettes and hang signage on all of our waste cans and receptacles in the building. And I've devised an education plan and working with PIO, and we're going to have training for 30 minutes for city staff once a month leading up to the rollout. And I've also been meeting with our building management group called Citywide. And I'm also going to be working with their housekeeping training, and they're also called day porters. And I'm offering the same training to everyone. And I think it's extremely important to make sure everyone's involved in the training. Everyone that pretty much walks through the front door at the building will have an opportunity to be invited to all trainings. And I'm excited. I worked with our new PIO assigned person named Monica today, and she's helping me schedule video recording of these trainings so that everyone will see it or have access to it. And yeah, I think that's where we're at right now. And I'm hoping that the next time we meet, I'll be telling you that training went wonderful and we videotaped it and had great turnout. And we have a fully stocked Green Ambassadors team. Any questions?
Okay.
I am curious if there was an article that was probably 6 or more months ago in the Kansas City Star about food waste efforts at the city. I know that, or actually, I'm sorry, the article was about recycling efforts generally, but it mentioned food waste as well. I think it was more about the carts that the solid waste team is working with in the community, but it alluded to a food waste pilot or something. Is that what this is, an internal program, or is there also and you could talk about the community recycling too if there's an update on that, but is there also a community food waste pilot that's happening that's separate from this?
That's a good question. I don't really know the answer to that right now. And I didn't see that article, which I would love to see. But I do know that through connecting to Casey Can Compost, who is our contractor for the composting effort in the building, I know that they're really excited to expand their composting to the community. And I know a lot of groups are working on that as far as for, organizations or companies, I should say. Laura or Andy, do you know anything about that?
I have not heard an update myself. I'm not sure if Laura, you've heard anything recent on the community composting project?
I know there's several. There's a USDA grant that's out there that we're trying to, it's mostly a funding issue right now and trying to figure out logistics of exactly how we're going to do it. So stay tuned. I can say that it is definitely on the minds and meetings here with Public Works and the city manager's office and stuff like that. So we're thinking about it.
So
and I
back
wanted
to
to,
recycling then. Oh,
no, go
only
ahead.
because the mayor's tweeting out images of recycling carts. I thought maybe there was a food waste cart thing that was on the horizon too, but at some point, if you know something more and can share that with the commission, that would be great on the carts. I know that that's Public Works, but I'm sure you guys are tracking it for climate related reasons.
Yeah. Yes. Many folks here know my wife works for 311. And so, yeah, sure enough, when that tweet went out from the mayor and everybody started calling about their recycling carts, her phone lines blew up. And then next, she's calling me and her asking me about it. So that's just the way the mayor likes to roll sometimes. They put stuff out before we actually know in-house what's going on. So yeah, we'll absolutely kind of follow up with this solid waste and Public Works to find out what's the timeline on those bins and just, disbursement and all that. But yeah, stay tuned.
Oh, Molly,
Okay.
I wanted to address that there's no talk of worms right now. Although I love vermiculture, there's no talk of that right now, and I'm just gonna push the pause button and table that because I think it's turning out to be really complicated because we have 29 floors and 500 people. And I also am learning that for the other, I was like, who's doing this already and who's having success? I talked to Matt Riggs from Mark, and the employees of Mark are actually managing the composting for their building, and we are relying on our housekeeping and day porters to manage that. And it's actually a really interesting opportunity, and I love seeing it unfold that we are in the making for green jobs and really seeing citywide take that wheel and do something that I think is actually rare out there for such a large building full of so many people.
It's going to be great.
I think so too.
And then a goat on every floor too.
Scott, you got your hand up there?
Yeah. No, this is neat. I was curious then, Kelly, maybe you said, I saw you held a little bucket up that was kind of, yeah. So what, maybe you said this in the passing, is the idea then that like every employee has one of those and then you pass the buckets to the end of the row at the end of the week and dump them all in a hopper or something, or what do you do?
That would be kind of a miracle, but we're just shooting for these little bins to be in our kitchens for composting waste. We're starting, I think, at a really good starting spot. And then obviously we're gonna, grow and learn. And if we need more space, we'll get bigger bins. But for right now, we have about 2 kitchenettes every floor. And so that's what's gonna go beside the coffee maker, beside the microwave. And we're starting with this size, and they'll all be lined with plastic bags and removed daily.
Mm-hmm.
I think Laura wanted to say something too.
Yeah, so Scott, on the 8th floor, which is that's our food floor. It's where all our, what are they even called? Vending machines,
Our
I
vending
guess, for fresh
machines, yeah.
food. I mean, they're like fresh food. They're not really vending machines. You open the door and then you scan it like a grocery store. But so that's where all our food is. We have our big bin up there that people can use. But when we originally did the audit with Casey Can Compost, we went to different floors and literally like, hey, what did you bring for lunch? Hey, where's your kitchenette? And we found that on most floors with employees working from home and such, the only things they really have are like a banana peel and some coffee grounds and some chicken bones. Like most people bring a sandwich and they bring it in their, own little container and they eat it and they put their container back and take it home. So we're not making a whole lot of food waste, but Kelly didn't talk about this part because it's not part of her rollout, but we've been composting paper towel waste in the bathroom since the original pilot. The food waste part just didn't go very well. So Yeah, at this
Okay.
point, if people have a big party or something, what we're gonna do is on those bins, we're gonna have stickers that just say, got more waste than will fit in here, take it to the 8th floor and put it in the big bin. So people
Right.
can walk up to the 8th floor for a, you know, a pizza or something versus the normal waste.
Right. And you didn't have to worry about training, like you said, maybe with green ambassadors or somebody, like keep everybody from throwing their plastic forks and cups in and that sort of stuff.
Yes, that's exactly what I'm hoping for. So I have Casey Can coming for a 30-minute training in February. Missouri Organics, which is Too Good to Waste school curriculum for composting, coming in March. And in April, Matt Rigg from Mark to reiterate recycling, what can and can't be recycled, because I've already been asked what's the difference between composting and recycling, and we kind of have to revisit that and potentially keep revisiting it, honestly, because as I really work through the details of this project, I do look in trash a lot, and I see, like Laura saying, we have very little, I would say, spaghetti in the trash can. There's very little food waste that's really in the trash can. But every can that I look into, it's mixed. So I see trash and recycling and trash. So we just have to kind of really reiterate how to do that, have proper signage, a lot of instructional signage, and just keep with it, honestly, and maybe find a way to introduce it also to onboarding, kind of how, like, our waste, you know, ethics or something like that. And so there's a lot of potential here.
Yeah, no, this is great. Really, that's fantastic though, because you know, I do reading on a lot of these things on the side, for environmental issues, and one of the things I saw just last week, I think it was that if food waste was its own country, it would be the third largest emitter after the US and China in terms of total carbon emissions. And I'm like, wow, that's just stunning, Yeah. So, and yeah,
No,
yeah.
yeah, it is stunning. And actually, it's also, as I really look into this, we have to start developing more of the conversation of everything that leads to the food waste, just like meal planning and meal prepping, just like there's a lot added there. And thank you, Laura, for the goat. Really appreciate that. Yeah, half full coffee cups. Yeah. Oh, and that's another thing. When I was talking to the building staff, they said, "Can you please make sure that the trash can label says no liquids?" So we have a real firm starting point, you know.
All right. Thank you, Kelly.
Yep.
Appreciate
Yeah,
that.
thank
Very
you.
thorough. All right. So just to kind of wrap up the OEQ report, I got a couple last things. As you all know, there's a lot of grant opportunities floating around out there. We've talked to the commission in months past about, garnering any support, assistance we can from you out there and the stakeholders. And we'll revisit that ask again. But before we do that, Laura has been working on a couple of grants that we can share with you. So Laura, you want to talk about the ACEEE and the Civic grant?
Sure. So back in November, actually Bridging the Gap, I'm not going to take credit for this because it was Keisha, Bridging the Gap, that came to me and said, hey, we really need to do this. ACEEE was offering it's not, no funding behind it, but they're offering 100 hours of technical assistance from their staff to help us with our programs around energy efficiency for homeowners. And right now, Kansas City has so many efforts going on in so many different directions that nobody really knows what anyone else is doing. All we know is internally we have a minor home repair program that gives some funding, and we have a lead program that'll give funding for different things. And then we had our neighborhood grants that we're also going to give a little bit of money to whoever applied for that. So there's just things going on everywhere. And then there's great organizations like Bridging the Gap, like MEC and, Westside Housing. Thank you, Gloria, for your letter of support on that, that are doing great things. So ACEEE, pretty much we asked for the kitchens, everything in the kitchen sink in our grant application. Please help us do everything. And which they came back to us and they just pretty much said that they're going to help us by providing recommendations on how the city can pursue energy efficiency initiatives that best leverage the energy efficiency efforts and, when possible, the minor home repair and healthy homes efforts of other entities throughout the region, such as state and federal agencies and utilities. And they will also provide us recommendations on how to measure and monitor the success of the programs. And then they're also going to support us in designing and engaging with those external organizations to come to consensus on how we can create a very robust service for homes in Kansas City. Because what we have right now is, yes, somebody approaches Bridging the Gap because they want energy efficiency, but their roof is leaking and we don't have any funding for that. But we know people do have funding for that. So it's ACEEE is kind of going to help us put everybody together in a room and talk this through. Since it's a neutral third party, hopefully it will, organizations that normally don't play well together might play well together in this situation. So we're pretty excited about that. That technical assistance is actually going to start. Well, technically it started 2 days ago. And what they're going to do first is deliver a draft memo to us on all the things that are out there and how we can leverage them. And then we're going to sit down together and start working with our community stakeholders after that. So that's one we're super excited about. The other big one that's going on right now that some of you might already know about, I can't remember if I talked about this, but Kansas City had gone early on for a National Science Foundation grant with the Midwest Climate Collaborative. It's a civic grant. So pretty much what it does is it pairs a university partner with a community partner to try to tackle a big issue. And we are one of 4 cities, Indianapolis, St. Louis, Dane County, Wisconsin, and then, and then us. We're all working together through Heather Navarro and the Midwest Climate Collaborative to look at what are our barriers to tree planting. All of the cities have the same issues with locating and maintaining and getting public buy-in and community outreach. So we're all sitting down together with our respective universities. From our end, Molly Feng Pang Sung is on that grant. And we'll be reaching out to others as needed. But some of the cities, their big issues are things that we don't really have the expertise to tackle at UMKC, but maybe WashU does have. So it's kind of like, even though it's our university, we're going to we might partner Feng Pang with, Wisconsin. We don't know. However, it works out best to get the right students doing the right research is the plan on that. And so this is stage 1, National Science Foundation grants like that. This is the $50,000 planning grant for 6 months. So in March, we're going to submit our phase 2 proposal. And we're working on right now with the group trying to figure out exactly what questions we can have answered by the universities that will be great and helpful and move us forward. And then those projects, we'll submit that grant. And that one, if we're selected, will be $1 million grant. So about $250,000 for the next 12 months for each city to go back and implement everything that the university partners had helped us with. So this is a piece that just adds on to the already expanding tree work. And this is going to hopefully give us a little more research-based, fact-based community outreach to be able to get trees moving forward, and actually some probably good policies to help move trees forward as well. So any questions on those two? I've got several others out. I've told some other partners this as well. The grants that partners come to me with and say, hey, we need the city to do X on this bigger grant that we're asking for, and we're going to run it because it's going to increase our capacity and do wonderful things. Those are the grants that I'm really, really helping follow right now because we don't have capacity to run tons of things within the city. So, I mean, we've got, Cultivate KC is working on something with us. We've got some other energy efficiency grants out from the Department of Economic Development. We've got a couple of those in the works as well. And we're helping with some transportation grants as well. We're looking at a lot of different things. And I think we just knocked off a letter of support today for something Casey Can's trying to do. So if you guys know a community partner, you've got some issues, something you want to put together, run it by me and I will happily write a letter of support for Andy to sign.
Yeah, and certainly feel free to reach out to me as well. I'm happy to help Laura on this effort. We have also one that Laura didn't mention was Jerusalem Farm. We helped with them doing a pilot project for continuing the solar for low-income families. They like that idea a lot, so that's what they're kind of focusing on a grant that they just got. So anyhow, yeah, lots of things going on. Happy to help wherever we can. So reach out to us and let us know. Just want to wrap up our OEQ report on a high note. Back a few months ago, I think we just kind of we missed it just with being off in December. But many of you know we report to the Climate Disclosure Project, or CDP, annually on all those things that we're doing here in Kansas City. They have a survey that we've completed many year after year, and Jerry used to have the pleasure of working on this back in his time here. And then when Jerry moved on, we basically, well, before he left, we actually turned it into a team effort. So Laura and the team really did a great job of really working on the survey. And after a couple of iterations of this, I was happy to report this year we ended up with a score of an A-. So pretty exciting stuff. I think this is our highest score yet. I was a little disappointed because CDP report does not put you on their website unless you're an A. So A- doesn't get you officially on their website to promote it. So, but we did pick up some press on this. Flatland did a pretty nice story with this about a month ago or so. So that went out there. But anyways, Laura and I will be meeting with the folks from CDP tomorrow. To kind of find out what we can do better to get the A next time around. So anyway, wanted to share this with you. You got a copy of it. It was emailed to you earlier today. So take a look at that, and we'll see how we do next year. Unless there's any questions, I think I'm going to wrap up the OEQ report so we have time to cover some of the other things on the agenda.
Thank you,
Eric?
Andy. Is Jensen still with us? Jensen?
I am sorry, I was on mute.
Okay. Can you tell us how it's been going with the LEED Standards Committee?
Yeah, sure. The LEED Standards Committee met one time. It had a project that was submitted. The long and the short of it is that the ordinance only requires LEED certification for building projects over 5,000 square feet, and it turned out that this wastewater operators building isn't large enough to meet the ordinance requirements. But what was good was I think that the committee got together and there, the questioning of the Water Services Department was really comprehensive. And it seems like there's real interest in putting some strength behind the ordinance. The other thing was that the Water Services Department had already used the Envision checklist. The bigger bulk of the project is related to the site use as a wastewater treatment facility, and Envision certifications are more about the horizontal space than the buildings that sit on top of it. So that was a good sign. The ordinance, though, that discusses the LEED Gold requirement of city buildings doesn't make reference to Envision. I think that there's a desire that it be expanded to include that, but as of right now, it doesn't. They consequently were using the checklist, but there isn't anything that offers guidance to the staff as to whether it pursues Envision or how it uses that certification any further than to use the checklist. So all things I think that the Lead Standards Committee, we recognized in this first meeting, and I think we're in better standing for the next project that comes our way. I think there's also interest in looking at some of the projects that haven't come before the committee from the past. I think most notably, I think I'll just end it here. The airport will be LEED certified, and that's a massive project, and it's great that the city is honoring that standard with such a important and kind of recognizable project. That's it. Any questions?
When do you know?
Andy is the co-chair on that committee, by the way. It wasn't previously that way. It was, I think it was the city architect, or Andy could say more about how that worked, but it's nice to have Andy as a co-chair. I think the two work together real well.
Yeah, historically it would be the city architect, and when I met with Jim back a year or two ago, we started talking about this committee. It historically had met pretty infrequently, so I think one of the things I did was offer my services to help facilitate these, so that we could try to get more regular. And I think last year we had 2 or 3 meetings in general. So already here we've already had actually 2 meetings within about a month of each other. So anyways, we'll see. But yeah, we have some work to do, no doubt, with the ordinance and some other things. So we'll keep you posted.
Thank you both. Is there any old or new business to come before the commission?
Yes, Carol, I've got one thing. So just for the sake of discussion for the group, I did forward an email that I got from Bike Walk KC the other day. I forwarded this to several of you. And I also got a phone call from Michael at the time that, the Truman Road project has met a lot of awkwardness, I guess maybe is the word to use, but the most important thing that he wanted to get across to me that I felt was important to bring to the commission was that there are certain opposition to that project that is being kind of intimidating and threatening to Bike Walk KC staff. I wasn't at these meetings and don't have any firsthand experience to see what he's describing, but the email link that Bike Walk KC sent out described it a little bit and was really encouraging everybody who, regardless of your support of that particular project, that we don't want to encourage people to be intimidating to cyclists, pedestrians, or people that support cyclists and pedestrians. And Michael did say that they'd had to step up security at Bike Walk KC already themselves. I don't know any more details than that, but wanted to pass that along and let each of you take action, whatever you feel is appropriate.
I heard up to date, and there was at least one business owner along the way and said that there's no place to park, and so they can't, that their revenues are way down, and they think it's because of the biking, the right away for the bikes. So if there was a way to help both, to help the businesses too, I don't know. I don't know the issue that well.
Scott, can you share that email with Andy and share it with the rest of us?
I don't have it right in front of me. I sent that to everyone on the commission
I got it.
two days ago, I think it
2
was.
days ago. Okay, I'll look for it.
Yeah.
Look for
Yeah.
it. So
it was from a different email address than my MRI Global one. I sent it through my private
okay.
consulting email. So you may check your spam if
Okay.
it didn't pick it up, but it's, you know, somehow through time I've gotten on Bike Walk KC's regular, you know,
Mailing list.
regular mailing list, but they obviously sent this to everybody, and it had a link in it that if you click the link, it allows you to write a message directly to city council people, and
So,
basically suggesting that you know we don't need intimidation and threats for a city project that has had quite a lengthy process, and realizing, you know, that there may be some difficulties that the businesses are having. I don't know. I'm with Marty. I don't really know how to judge that, but it made it sound, and what Michael had said also in just a personal phone call, was that you know, some people were very concerned for their personal safety over this.
yeah, which is certainly inappropriate. Okay. Okay. Well, I'm sorry to hear that. And I'll look for the email and see what we can do.
Mm-hmm.
Are there any remarks from visitors? I need to look and see if we have any visitors left. Well, a few. Any remarks or questions from visitors? Any other business to come before the commission?
This isn't exactly business, but I had a guy working on my dryer, so I was in and out of contact. So is there a way I could see the video of this meeting?
Oh, the recording?
Yeah. I'm not sure I know how to do that.
Yeah, we'll it takes a little time to finish on our end, and then we package it up. I think we put it on a YouTube channel.
Okay.
Yeah, we'll get you a link to it here probably tomorrow or the next day.
Okay, thanks.
Okay. Well, I will consult and see if I can put together a draft letter of support for the tree ordinance and get that out to you soon. Our next meeting is actually, because we met a week later, our next meeting is going to come upon us rapidly. It'll be, I think, on the 8th of February.
Yes.
So we'll all put our thinking caps on between now and then about the future of the commission and how we might strengthen and become more influential, and how we might advocate for that. Andrew, you said that there was the possibility of a special presentation in February.
Special presentation.
I'm trying to remember some group that it has a presentation that they offered.
Yes. So if the commission were interested, Vicinity, which is a utility here downtown that provides chilled water and steam to many facilities here in the downtown. They have a loop that basically circles the downtown area, and buildings can tie into it if they like to. They have a plant that's located right over by City Market, and they've converted from coal to natural gas. And we met with them. they're VPs from Boston, and we had an opportunity to kind of talk about the alignment of our climate plan with their sustainability goals for their organization. And it was very encouraging, some of the things that they want to do here in Kansas City, and that they want to try to be supportive of our climate plan. So back in Boston, they have a similar plant that has already gone electric. So kind of cool. We found it pretty interesting. Certainly happy to have them. I could certainly invite them to the commission to provide kind of a summary of their sustainability plan if you were all interested in that.
Is it, would that promote natural gas being used longer or?
Well, it's
mean-
already being used here, and it was actually beneficial for them to do that because it was a coal plant. So when they switched over to gas, Kansas City actually became in attainment for SO2 emissions. So that was kind of a big, particularly downtown. We were out of attainment in SO2 emissions. So that was a good move. The next good move for them is, of course, going electric. So trying to get their plant to convert to that on a particular time frame that aligns with our climate plan is our hopes. But they've got other things going on too.
Okay, the only thing I was concerned with is if they get more people to tie into that heating mechanism, then that may sustain gas longer because they'll have more votes for gas.
Sure.
It doesn't make it, and if it all could be turned over to electricity eventually, then we got to figure out who's going to generate the electricity. Okay.
Yep.
I'm done.
Good questions.
I will say, just to clarify to Marty's point, the so the library is on that loop as well. We had only half of our downtown library on it, and this year, I should say, 23, we'll have the entire building there. The way the contracts are structured, they will be motivated to figure out how to electrify the facility within the current contracts that they have, if that makes sense. So they wouldn't proceed if it was much more costly. And certainly the customers don't notice the difference. We all have these longer term contracts that suggest that we're working with Vicinity to get the district heating or chilled water. So I wouldn't discourage anyone from joining with District Energy. There are both energy, but I would say more importantly there are carbon benefits right off, not just because they're natural gas from coal, but simply the District Energy, they have a larger system that's more efficient than any boiler or chiller that we could have locally would run. The other part of this concept goes back before Vicinity took over the site, but this was something Scott and I had talked a little bit about, creative solutions for large property owners that have infrastructure in Kansas City. And there was a concept paper that I don't even know if it was a full paper or just a long email thread, but it talked about how a partner like this Trigen plant, or what's now Vicinity, could become a food waste or organic waste digester and leverage its infrastructure. So in that case, it would still be methane, but it would then go into powering that plant, which would provide steam or chilled water. So, I'm excited to hear that they're interested. I have also seen that their leadership coming out of Boston are because they're a national company, are very much approaching renewables. They've got if you guys go to their website, you'll find that they've got a pretty good amount of literature. So, Andy, this is a great report, and I would love to hear them speak, and I would love to encourage the other commissioners to bring all sorts of interesting questions about the potential for District Energy.
Okay, I think that we will go ahead and pursue that. Is that okay, Andy, please?
I will reach out to them and see if they can do that for that date. Absolutely.
Okay, thank you so much. If there is another business to come before the commission, we can adjourn. Does anybody else want to bring any other business before the commission? I really want to thank all of you for your attendance today. I think that we have a nice core of people who care deeply, and we just need to, I don't know, enhance our ranks and get things going again. So I thank you all and wish you good luck between now and our next meeting. Please, please get Andy any information you may have about agenda items you'd like to see on a subsequent meeting agenda, or you can send an email to me and we'll take care of getting them on the agenda. Okay, and have a pleasant evening.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you all.
Bye.
Thank you. Thanks
Yep,
so much.
thank you.
See
Good
you
to
next
see you all.
time.
Bye.
Bye. Go Goats.